Welcome to the All Outdoors Photography Podcast. This podcast is about all things outdoor photography, including landscapes, wildlife, macro, and more. The show features two talented photographers, Henry Doyle and Ryan Taylor, who bring their different experiences in photography to the podcast. The show is released weekly every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. In today's episode, Henry and Ryan share some recent hiking and photography trips they embarked on. Ryan talks of his 3-day solo trip at Hocking Hills State Park in Ohio, and Henry talks about his experiences out in Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee, and more in North Carolina.
Welcome back to episode 48 of the Outdoors Photography Podcast. And today we're going to be going over some of our recent trips.
Yep, both Henry and I, we both pretty recently embarked on some, I guess, multi-day trips for photography, of course. And so this episode is just going to be like a split topic, and we're both going to be talking about our experiences.
But first of all, we're going to just do a couple updates here. I just want to briefly announce that I have officially released my calendar. You can find it in the link in my bio. I did all wildlife this year, so I picked 12 images plus a cover and a back. It's kind of a smaller calendar, kind of a medium size, I would say. Not like a desk calendar, but not like a giant wall calendar, so kind of in between. If you'd like to support me, and with that is in my bio.
Yeah. What made you choose wildlife in particular?
That's just because I feel like this year that's what I did predominantly. Like, that's what I spent most of my time on. If you portion it out, so I just thought, why not do wildlife this year? So.
Fair enough. Yeah. I know you've been definitely. You said on the record before you've been kind of not so much moving away from landscapes, but maybe just focusing definitely a lot more on the wildlife side, which is pretty cool. Because I definitely have been seeing over the time I've known you, your shots just improving dramatically. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I'll definitely have to snag a copy of it. Yeah.
Gracias.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Yeah. Anything else?
Or no, that's it for me. What about you?
Cool. Just shameless plugs. I guess while I'm thinking of it, my calendar's still for sale for 2022. I guess I'll put that link in my bio, or I think it already is actually. And mine, I focus for mine. This is my second year of doing them, but I focus on landscapes, just some wide angle stuff of Ohio scenery. I incorporate some of my more recent images of some just local architecture and just historical buildings that interest me, and I photographed within the past year or two. But yeah, overall that's for sale, and I have it about $15, and you can order online. It gets printed on demand and sent to you, of course. So, or you can just pick one up at my galleries or festivals, of course, if you're local. But yeah, I think other than that, I don't have too much else going on. As of the time of this recording, I'm now back on Instagram. I guess it felt like it was time to come back. I took a big enough break, which really wasn't that long. I think it was only a couple weeks. I don't even think it was up to a month really, but it felt like a long time, and it was much needed now looking back on that. But still quietly working away and producing more photos and videos to edit and all that stuff. So that'll all be rolling out hopefully in the next upcoming weeks. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me, at least with updates.
Cool. Yeah. Make sure you guys check out his calendar. It's great. I've held one myself, and it's looking forward to using it in 2021. So, or 2022. What am I saying?
It's weird when you have these product, or I hate saying product, but these items these things that we create, and it's like 6 months or more in advance. Yeah. I'm I'm not even. It's amazing to think because it's going to be here very very soon. It's almost the end of 2021, which is just crazy to think about. I just feel like this year's flown by. In contrast to last year.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, yeah, I think that's it for updates. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, we're just both gonna share our recent trips that we took. So as you probably tell from the title, I went to Hocking Hills, and then Henry went to North Carolina. So my trip was at the time of this was about a couple weeks ago now. So I had some time to really reflect on it. And I actually just finished the previous night before recording this that I finished editing my photos, all of them, and I actually took about I think 317 shots, which I know it sounds bananas because I was like there for 3 days. Like I told my photographer friends, like other people, and they're like, "You only took how many?" Like they just were like so like shocked, I guess. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I felt like I was being pretty choosy, but not too much, you know. I felt like I was on the run almost, you know, just shooting a little bit of everything in the landscape there at Hocking Hills. But yeah, I only took about 300 exposures, and most of those, a good majority of them are bracketed, so it's even less like unique images and compositions. You know, it's probably almost half that, honestly. Um, so and then in the editing process and calling which photos I think I should choose to focus on and just kind of do some basic adjustments on everything. Yeah, I chose even less, of course, and then whatever I post online. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed my time overall there. It was really really cool. Just it's my first time there. Let me just put that out there off the get go. But yeah, it was just really neat to just do this solo trip on my own, sleeping in my car, doing it all solo. So I just had like all the landscape in front of me to, hike and explore, and just take photographs and just kind of just live the life I kind of want to do more of, just kind of
Mm-hmm.
traveling and being more mobile and just self-sufficient, I guess, but also just doing what I love, which is seeing new things and photographing them simply. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I did think the same thing though when you said 300 shots. I mean, that's probably the sign of a good photographer there. Um,
Well, I mean, it's
I
more like
mean,
I just
yeah, you're kind of narrowing down and being more choosy with your shots, and it's
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's I wouldn't say that necessarily, but it's more like I just hate the idea of editing in general. And like I already had like sitting at home on my hard drives like lots of just other shots from the month or two prior to the edit. But now I'm fully caught up with everything, which is just a weight off my shoulders. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to be a lot more selective, I think. And then at no surprise to me and probably anyone else, my focus for this trip was really like the wide angle, the what I like to call postcard shots. So I basically nailed down all the main caves and caverns there, cliff overhangs, all the waterfalls, of course, that are very very popular with tourists and people that visit that area. So I basically, it's funny because I now I'm looking back on my shots. It's literally all with my 16 to 35 f4. Like I did not, I don't think I ever switched the lens out just because it was such a, it was such a breath of fresh air because I usually try to, I find myself gravitating towards more just in general with photography, doing more intimate landscapes and stuff that's trying to not be so big and expansive in your face because I am in Ohio, of course, so you can
Mhm.
do those shots, of course, but like I don't know, I find them more appreciative of like the smaller things that people may overlook. And I've heard that from feedback from people viewing my work, printed and hung on the wall, of course, too. But I just found myself, as I was journaling, because I did a lot of journaling, the nights, I guess, right before I went to bed or whatever each night, and I found myself kind of having this like shift, temporary shift, I'll say, of just like focusing on the big grand vistas and doing these big shots, wide angles, capturing all this greenery and rock and these gorges and slump blocks and these big, just bombastic waterfalls, which were actually they're all pretty much flowing really well, given that it was like late. I don't even think it was really it wasn't even summer, late September. So I mean, it was like pretty much fall at that point, or at least transitioning, we'll say. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the shots now, it's like the majority of them were definitely that bigger, kind of grander style, which I feel like for the location itself, because it has such a reputation, like that's the definitely what I was kind of going for with this first visit was getting those big shots, kind of like
Mhm.
nailing them down, and then maybe in like future visits, which will definitely be back, I'd imagine, in doing something that's a little more, maybe abstracty or something that's just something that people may overlook, So yeah, but I mean, I really enjoyed my time, especially and just looking at the photos now, it just kind of brings all the memories back, which I think that's a big reason why we both do what we do, of course, too.
That's awesome. It's cool how you're kind of experimenting with that wider angle because it's definitely a very different type of photography. Like you have to focus more on like what you're focused on and kind of what you're including in the frame, and it's just a whole different side of it.
Yeah, definitely. I just felt like for like I said, location and landscape in front of me, like everything felt grand and massive. So like
Mm-hmm.
this was kind of like in a way like my reaction to it. And maybe subconsciously I just wasn't quite aware that like, hey, Ryan, like try switching a lens every now and then because you were just kind of like shooting the same thing with the same, the wide angle zoom lens. And I'm pretty sure we both can agree it's like landscapes do become quite a cliche when it's like all done in that kind of wider angle and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe it's something to be more mindful of. But I just feel like maybe for the time, like this trip in particular, that's kind of like what I was going after. But um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I still took a handful of shots. There's one good example. I went to, in particular, Conquest Hollow, and that was on my second day. And that's a state nature preserve. It's not really, I don't want to say it's not affiliated with the like Hocking Hills State Park, but it is like its own separate state nature preserve within like the Hocking region, if that makes sense. But like I took some, actually it was the first shot. I like it was totally crowded. Like the parking lot, like could hold I think like hundreds of cars. Honestly, like it's a big parking lot for there. And like I started crossing along this like bridge along this creek and everything, and it was like midday, like 2-3 p.m. light. So I was coming. I was kind of like going in at like a really not so favorite time, of the day. It's just blue sky, pretty much all 3 days. Honestly, it was just very, very bright and sunny, which kind of made shooting tricky a little bit more. Um, but I like the first shots I took were actually this top down, and just the like you ever seen that like iridescent rainbow kind of color refracting on water.
Mm-hmm.
I just basically did like a textural shot, where it's just all this different iridescent color, and there's this I think it was like tree trunk shadow, just like jaggedly going like diagonally right across the frame. And then I had a polarizer on, so I just kind of like experimented with incorporating like the leaves reflections from overhead, just like cool stuff like that. So I didn't only take those big shots, but there were a few like breaks or pauses in between those where I was like doing some stuff that's more, uh, maybe more, like more of my work, I guess, overall.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad to see you're kind of branching out into everything there. I was gonna ask. You mentioned some type of rock. I can't remember what you said exactly. It's a
Uh, Slump block.
yeah, slump block. What is that? I've never heard of that.
It's a good question. I mean, because it does sound like kind of goofy, and
Uh-huh.
full disclaimer, I'm not like I just read signs and brochures and books sometimes. So I'm not a total citizen scientist, naturalist kind of guy. But from what I gathered, I mean, I've heard about these for a long time because like nearby Clifton Gorge or other gorge kind of habitats, which are fairly prevalent in Ohio. They have these giant. I'll include in the slideshow as well some images, some examples, but like they're like these giant, massive just rocks. I'm talking like massive, like house, like big house sized ones. And so when you got all this, at least in the Hocking region, it's called black hand sandstone, which is just a type of like mineral deposit that was left behind from the glacial period of Ohio. Um, there's all these different, it's all this big rocky habitat. But like over time, that water from the ice age and everything eroded, right through all this rock, and that's what carved those unique looking waterfalls, just different unique natural features in the landscape and geology and all that stuff. So these slump blocks are basically just like the cutoff of those giant from off those gorges, and so they come in the form of these giant blocks and just pretty much rip apart from the water. And this is stuff that happened like I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of years ago, right? During the ice age time and all that stuff. Pre-settlement Ohio, of course. But so these slump blocks are just laying out throughout the landscapes, and like Conquest Hollow, like I mentioned in particular, there's a trail. It's like the most popular path because it's mostly flat concrete, so it's like wheelchair accessible and all that. But it goes right through the hollow, the gorge that is. And there's so many examples of these giant, both big and even bigger slump blocks that are just laying out. And it's pretty cool because if you look up or around the like surrounding area of these blocks, you can see where it got carved out and just fell off from like the rock wall or the gorge. And it's just really neat to see these things, these big hulking masses. And I think that's the reason why I did lots of the wide angle landscapes is because I wanted to incorporate those as the subject really in the entire landscape, which is really cool. So yeah, that's just a little bit about those. But they're really cool to find and see. And there's a couple of them. It's not in Hocking Hills, but there's one called Steamboat Rock, that looks kind of like a steamboat, so it's had that name
Hmm.
forever, basically. So they create these unique shapes with them, which is really cool too.
That's awesome. What would you say is the biggest one you saw there? Like, what's like the scale
Ooh.
on this?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, like, there's a few of them I just kind of like gawked at, honestly. I was like, I should have brought the tape measure, and just tried to wrap around because you need so many tape measures just to even wrap around at once. I don't know. There's one good image actually from Conquest Hollow I got, where I offset it with the rule of thirds, and there's like a mossy, all this greenery and gorgeous stuff, and there's all this moss in the slum block, and there's like this tree that's kind of jutting in. The slum block's on the left side, position off to there, and then there's a very thin but noticeable and apparent mossy tree trunk that's just like jutting out of the right side, and it's like it looks like it's connecting to the slump block, so it kind of like leads your eye in a little bit, which is a pretty cool technique. And then there's like a shallow, kind of almost dried out creek, that's like running underneath that tree trunk. And then I think off as I'm looking at it right now is actually there's like some stone steps that was later on the trail, like where I eventually went after taking the shot. But from my viewpoint, I mean, those steps are very, very small in comparison. Like it's just the scale, which I hope the photos kind of like convey, but like honestly, you have to be there in person to kind of witness it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the scale, like compared to your average human, is just it's incredible. So I mean, yeah, it was really neat to see those. And I mean, if you like rocky habitat, this, speaking, like this is like the best place, I say. It's just got so much cool stuff going for it. And these massive, at least in Conquest Hollow, this blackhand sandstone, you can just see the layers on both sides of the wall, and it's towering above you, like almost like a skyscraper height. Like it is insane. And then you can even go on the rim trail at the very top and go off to like the edge. And I don't know, I couldn't fathom like it was midday light, so I didn't take much shots up there, but like I could just imagine like peak fall color, sunrise or sunset, like that like view up there. There's many views, of course, but like that view up there was like as mountainous as Ohio looks. Like you're above the trees, like very high up, and it was insane, and windy, of course, too. But yeah, if you ever get like fear of heights or vertigo, like this is definitely not a place to go. At least on the upper part, maybe even the lower part too, depending on how you feel. Because it's just everything just feels you feel it's like so small. You just feel so small in this area, which is kind of humbling to say the least.
Mm-hmm. And I think a wide angle can definitely help convey that too. So it's probably good you were mostly using that.
Yeah. I just found it worked. I don't know. It worked for like almost all occasions, and even like the quieter, because like that place is so popular, like almost all year basically. And I was going at a very popular time, that late summer where it's still pretty warm out. It was very hot the days I was there. So there's tons of people passing back and forth. Even the one-way trails, I was passing people kind of like hiking to my whatever destination if I had a shot in mind, and I want to get it in the good light. So there's like a lot of people there, but like even the quieter moments, I'm just like, the shots I was getting were just like still those big kind of wider angles. As I keep referencing, but I just found it worked. Even I went to the nearby John Glenn Astronomy Park, which that in of itself was amazing and worth the trip out. Just because it's literally the darkest sky in Ohio. Like I think no one would like argue against that. And the 3 nights I was there, I went to two of the 3 nights. After dark, I basically after hiking at the normal places, the other places, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go up the road a few minutes and go up to this astronomy park because it's open 24 hours. And yeah, I just went there and just experimented with star trails, astrophotography. I didn't do any really like long star trails because I'm a little impatient, and plus it was just for fun. Like I'm not like saying I'm some
Mm-hmm.
super professional at it, but I was just like messing around with the intervalometer or getting kind of used to that gear that I've had for a while now, but you really have not gotten a good use out of. And just trying out some streaks for like 8+ minutes, incorporating the tree line and doing like a vertical comp, which I feel like worked out real well. And a couple of shots actually I took were pretty tack sharp for given just kind of guesswork and
Mm-hmm.
adjusting that manual focus and everything. I'm looking at one right now. It has some ghosting, but I can't tell if that's like the light from below on the tree line. I'm not sure if that's my post processing or if that's like actual light pollution. Could be
Mm-hmm.
both, honestly. I don't know. But I did
It
one of
could.
my.
There's another thing that happens with astrophotography too. Uh, unless you buy like a $6,000 lens. Like there's this thing called coma. It's like chromatic aberration, but for stars. It could also be that.
Could you repeat that? Your audio cut out. I'm sorry.
Oh, here, let me note so I can cut that real quick. Let's see. So basically, another thing that could be that ghosting, it could also be coma, which is like it's basically chromatic aberration, but for stars. And it's in pretty much all lenses, unless you have like a $6,000 astrophotography lens.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah,
And
it's not
there's
so much in the stars. It's just like in the tree line below.
hmm.
You know what I mean? Like surrounding it.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it looks like ghosting to me. It's not really like bands of colors, just like the light. Yeah. So it could be me just upping the brightness, like the exposure too much, maybe. But like I said, I'm kind of like new to all of this. But it was really fun to try that out. To get like the brighter stars or the brighter planets. Like I did one of my astrology sign Capricorn, using like a star trail map on my phone, and so I did one of Jupiter. I believe it's Jupiter and Saturn, which are on both ends of Capricornus. So just yeah, it was a fun time out there, and there's like a tour, like a guided tour. Person who was just like had one of those big professional laser pointers and he was like pointing out different constellations and what they mean. So that was really fun in of itself. Trying that out that genre of photography at least. But I mean, yeah, I mean it was just overall really good trip. I really can't complain at all. Like it couldn't have gone better. I mean, there's a few shots that didn't really turn out the way I wanted them to, and I couldn't really save them, or nor did I want to in post production. But I mean, overall, like the body of work I got from that, that region overall was really cool. And I went to a couple of nearby places like Rock Bridge State Nature Preserve. That was, I think, my third day, my third morning there, and that has the longest natural bridge in Ohio. You can cross along. So that was really cool.
Hmm.
Seeing that from above and below, and hiking around there, and like no one was really out that morning, like until I pretty much got back to the trailhead in the parking lot. Like there's a couple cars, but so I had that whole place to myself, and it was pretty awesome overall. Just checking out that unique feature that maybe people don't quite think of because they're going to like the main waterfalls at Hocking and everything. So yeah, there's a few moments where I was trying to like stray away from the crowds and just the most popular parts and really check out stuff that's a little more, shall we say, lesser known. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like you really got a good diversity in that area.
Yeah, I was definitely trying to capture like a good overview of the region and my
Mm.
first reactions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have enough content that I produced 3 videos. I did one video each day for the on location. So
Wow.
hopefully they'll be out soon. Now that I finish editing the photos, and those are going to be really exciting to make. Expect the Hocking Hills one. I did like the state park portion the first day I was there. That's probably going to be a really long video. I wouldn't be surprised if that's over half an hour long, given what I did that day. Second one was Conquest Hollow, and then the third was Rock Bridge. So that's 3 separate videos that I'm really eager to share with everyone. And then probably a couple blog posts down the line. We'll see, just kind of like autobiographical journal entries and photos that I took with my phone. That is, and just something that's a little more different formats compared to like the videos and everything else. So lots of content. So and I was really exhausted by the end of the trip, but very satisfied. It was really creatively speaking fulfilling and just fun to be out there on my own.
Cool. I mean, it's I always enjoy your videos, so I'm looking forward to that. I was gonna ask, how did the weather treat you on that trip?
Like I said, it was very fair skies,
Mm-hmm.
like just blue skies, very full sun, little to no clouds, all pretty much all 3 days. The third day is really, I guess, maybe it was rewarding the patience in me because I did have to work around that lighting most of the time. That third day, it kind of cleared out and became more overcast. Not cleared out, but it became more overcast as it approached like late morning, and it kind of stayed that way for most of the day. That third day, which is really nice. But those two first days, or the first 2 days, that is, those are very full sun days. Which
Mm-hmm.
it kind of I pretty much hit all my targets, like my intended stuff that I had trail maps like printed out for and ready for, and like I hit all my targets, but like things took a little bit longer due to because of COVID, the one-way trails. So I had to like go
Oh.
through sometimes multiple times. Like I had points where I could pull off and stop, like from the line or people that I was with, in line, I guess you'll say with, because some of the trails pretty narrow. But there's just a few times I'm like, oh, I have to go this. This is a one-way trail. I have to go to get like this waterfall, but then I have to go all the way around again, which might be like over a mile or so, past the crowds again or whatever, just to get to this other breakaway trail to get this specific like waterfall or whatever it may be, or see this thing. So like that definitely like increased the time I had to. I don't want to say unnecessarily move around, but like it definitely increased the time it took me to get different shots. And then early on I realized like I had to wait for the best light because I just wasn't going to be really bothered to take very many shots. And so there's a lot of like specific trips or locations there that like I had to make more than once because I was just waiting for like the evening light, which no surprise, but like no one's really out, when it gets near dark. I was like amazed at how much the place just clears out, like even before it gets like well before sunset, like half an hour, 45 minutes before. The entire place just clears out, which I was like, this is awesome. I have the all to myself basically, save for a few people. I can like kind of just slow down and just think about it, not be so worried about people like looking, give me weird looks. I have this tripod and maybe a camera bag with me or whatever, stuff like that.
And vlogging too. That doesn't help as well.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I minimized it. I actually filmed some for that the state park video on location. I filmed some inside the visitor center because that blew me away on its own. I didn't like speak in there, but I was just like doing some kind of like panoramic video, I guess, just moving it, up and around at the walls and all the different infographics. And that building was really, really amazing. Just really cool to see all that stuff. And it's got like a full blown gift shop and all this other cool stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was a little unnerving because like most of the time, or in certain areas, I was just like, man, I can't really record comfortably, and you can kind of tell like some parts I might get a little rushed in my speech, naturally or whatever. But I kind of found out quickly early on where most people stay at, along the trails and stuff, and where they go to. So like, I just kind of intelligently figured out, like, oh, right here, no one's here. Quickly film a speaking bit or something, and move forward. But yeah, I mean, it's just that whole trip overall just kind of like really got me excited. The trip itself was amazing, but like it just got me excited for what's to come, and definitely going back both there and doing other kind of long form trips to other places, and camping in my car or the tent or hammock, and and then yeah, filming videos of my experiences and sharing them with people. So all around, it was real well worth the time out there, and yeah. I think that's pretty much it if I don't stop rambling incessantly. So
Awesome. It seems like a great trip.
Mhm. So yeah, your turn.
Yeah, so I went to so basically I was doing 2 college tours. I won't talk much about that, but the first part of the college tour was in Asheville, the first college I was seeing. So on the way there, we stopped at this place in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I'm sure most of the listeners have heard of it. It's kind of between Tennessee and North Carolina. I know David Johnston, if he's listening, shout out to him. He shoots in there a lot. Beautiful park, and I think it was about probably a week before peak fall color, but the fall color is still spectacular. So we stopped there first on the way to Asheville, and there's this specific valley. I'm not gonna name it because there's already a ton of people there. And just because of the sensitive animals there. But there's this valley in the park. I'm sure you can find it very easily. But this valley basically it has a herd of I think it's 2 herds of elk. And it was kind of a toss up. These elk so it is October, so it's the running season for them, which is their mating season. But it was kind of a toss up because we were going midday just because of timing. And they usually only come out at dawn and dusk because they sleep during the day. But somehow, when I got there, about 30 minutes later, I was photographing some turkeys, and all of a sudden, just one little elk comes out, and I was really excited. So I shot this. It was a female. I shot this female for a while. And then more start coming out, more females. and then 2 bulls end up coming out, and it's just this cycle. More and more elk keep coming out, and these big bulls keep getting closer and closer. I'm staying a safe distance, of course. Um, there's like 6 other photographers with me, so it definitely wasn't like a isolated scenario. Like, this valley is known for the elk, but this time of day was so odd to see them. And I was lucky enough to get clouds to come in, so I could get neutral lighting of the elk, so that harsh lighting came out, kind of disappeared. And I was able to shoot these elk for 3 hours, like literally 3 hours, from like 3:30 to 6:30. It was spectacular. I've been in like a rut coincidentally, elk rut, but I've been in like a shooting rut. And this instantly broke it. It was just 3 hours of straight shooting these elk. I got photos of the calves and of the bulls and everything. I got the bulls bugling. I got video footage of that. I got all kinds of stuff. It was crazy. They were very close, safe distance, of course, but like they were close enough to get nice frame filling shots with my 500 millimeter lens, and it was just spectacular. I just 3 straight hours of it, and I loved it. It was so good. I've heard a lot about elk. I've never been able to shoot them, and this was my first time. And they definitely superseded my expectations. Like, hearing an elk bugle is just crazy. Like, this sound, you never think it would come from an elk, but it did, and it was just amazing. So
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I never experienced quite something like that before with elk or whatever, but like, just how did it feel? I mean, like, because that they look, I don't know, in pictures and video I've seen, like they look massive. Like, I think the closest comparison to us in Ohio is like white-tailed deer, which are very ever prevalent. But like, I imagine, like, their size is at least triple, maybe double, triple. Like a
I
white-tailed
would
deer.
say, they're probably twice as like, or maybe like, yeah, twice as tall as white-tailed deer, but they're like, their body mass, they're just so much like thicker than white-tailed deer. Like, they're huge animals, especially these bulls. I mean, these bulls'
Mhm.
antlers alone are like 5 feet tall, and then you have these. They're just these. I'm not kidding. Like, it's crazy. Like, if you see on my Instagram, I just posted one. Their antlers are just crazy, and then their bodies are huge. They've got like this two-toned look to them. Uh, it's just so cool, and they bugle to kind of keep the calves in check. So basically, with these elk, they have multiple mates. So like the bulls will like fight the other bulls. I didn't get to see the fight, unfortunately, but there were 2 bulls, and they were kind of like bugling at each other and trying to claim the females. So I got to see all of that. It was just amazing. It's probably one of the best experiences I've had doing wildlife. It was amazing.
Wow, I'm looking at the photo now, and that is incredible, man. that
Thank you,
is
thank
so
you.
that's
Yeah.
so. It's neat hearing like your story, and then just you're visualizing, you're explaining this whole like scenario, and then like I go like the big reveal, and I look at the photo, and I'm just like, that is crazy, man. And it's cool because for anyone that isn't looking at the photo, like Henry took this kind of the side profile view, and it cut off I think about halfway on the elk.
Hmm.
So it's featuring, and it has its mouth fully open, and but like I think the coolest part that sets it apart for me, because you're describing the antlers being like 5 feet tall or long, like it's just you see that you can see that size, that spatial like difference, because like it's a profile view, so like you're seeing the length of it compared to in proportion to its head or its body, and
Hmm.
like that is just intense, man. And it's like it is so cool looking. Like you
Yeah,
really picture the size of it, like and like that cropped in view. Like most people say, like cutting off the animal like is a no-no, but like I feel like it works because you put more attention on the face and the antlers that way.
thank you, thank you. Yeah, it was. It was honestly scary for a bit, like seeing these big animals and just trying to kind of safely convey what they are, because they're not deer. They're nowhere close to deer. The closest I can describe them to is like they're almost like a combination of like a brown bear and like a cow or something. It's
Hmm.
very interesting. Like, um,
They're
you know,
definitely
they're
not like big. I mean, like big in like a like a cow, I guess sense, but they definitely
uh
have that mass to them, I guess. Yeah.
hmm yeah, and they don't behave like deer. Like, they're definitely not scared of humans. Like, there were some dumb photographers there that like were getting right up on the elk, and these elk were letting them get close. And these were the females. If it was the male, he probably would have attacked them. But these females, they'll let you get really close. They're not scared like deer. They're very different. And I shot 800 photos of these guys. So I think I did my kind of narrowing down last night. I think I narrowed it down to about 100 raw files that I need to edit of these elk. The one I posted on Instagram was just kind of the first edit I've done. But yeah, I got all kinds of just different shots of the calves together and the bulls and all kinds of stuff. So it was awesome.
That is awesome, man. I just can't imagine. So it says you use your 100 to 500 lens. Like how? I'm trying to guesstimate with the image. Like how far away were you, or how close?
Okay, so for that guy, that was towards the end of the night. So it's this big valley. The valley's probably as long as 2 football fields. And you have to stay on the road. That's the national park rule, since it's during the rut. So I was on the road, and I was kind of angled to the side, so he was right. There was like a hill between us, but like he was like probably like 40 feet away. You're supposed to be 50 feet, but like it was one of those cases where I couldn't get back in time. So like, it was like one of those cases where you couldn't get back, if that makes sense, because he was kind of moving. He had just stopped, and I took a shot and then moved. But yeah, he was pretty darn close there, and I was all the way out at 500 for this shot. I did do quite a bit of shots where I was at like the more 300 or even some at 100, just to kind of show the autumn landscape around the elk. But I really did like getting in tight and getting those nice fur details and getting the texture on the antlers. I don't know if you see in that image, it's kind of hard to see, but there's some specks, and that's not sensor dust. That's actually ladybugs. I don't know. It was so weird, this valley. I've never seen so many ladybugs. Like, it was just constant ladybugs flying around these elk and flying around me. There must have been thousands. It was weird, but it was just really cool. So.
I mean, now I guess now I'm looking at it. I see it kind of like hovering around the antlers. Is that what you mean? I see those little specks. Okay,
yeah. So those are all ladybugs. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, okay, cool. Man, that's awesome. Did you mainly shoot them like midday, or did you try to go like hunt them down, so to speak, at like sunrise or something, or sunset?
So it was far away from Asheville, so it was kind of a stop on the road. So we shot it from 3:30 to about 6:30 or 7. And I was lucky enough to get that neutral lighting from clouds covering the sun. It was pretty dark, so pretty high ISO, but I was able to get like a nice neutral exposure on these elk. So the lighting really didn't change, so I could just kind of focus on composition.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's like the perfect kind of even flat light, which I feel like works in this case, because I could easily, I don't know, but like the brighter kind of the middle section of their torso, like it's kind of like the brightest spot I see in the image.
Yeah.
And, like I bet like bright, sunlight would actually probably overexpose it, because the head's a lot darker too. So it's like I could see like these animals with the variation in the hair color, like being kind of tricky to meter for maybe.
Yeah, I was even having trouble with that in the neutral light. Like I had to bring down, like, dodge that bright part down quite a bit. Like even in the neutral light, there's such a difference there. So.
That's awesome, man. Shoot.
it was quite the thing. Like, yeah, it was wow. I'm so glad I had this new lens with me, because my other lens in this, like, it was so dark. Like, this was like a dark, cloudy sky. So like, not like a bright, cloudy sky. This was like basically storm clouds without storming. It was that dark. So I had to use like 1/100th. I had to be very careful to make sure the elk were standing still in order to get sharp shots, so I could keep my ISO down. And with my old 600 f11, I just would have had way too noisy images. So I'm glad I had that 1 to 500 for this. And yeah, it was just everything came together nicely. So.
Yeah, you really peered the moment there. That's awesome. Did you use you shot handheld, right? You didn't use like a monopod or some tripod or stabilization?
I was kind of 50-50, because I was trying to get some video clips. So when I did that, I was on a tripod, and I did some photos as well. I don't find like my image stabilization's good enough. I don't find that a tripod really helps much with getting like I can hand hold 1/100th and get a sharp shot. It's just a matter of if the animal moves or not. So I just kind of use a tripod when my hands get tired, really. Uh, when it comes to wildlife, so.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was just thinking with the high ISO, like I don't know if the
Mm-hmm.
Canon RP's really probably handles it pretty well, I'd imagine, because it's a pretty new camera.
Not really.
Oh,
No,
oh
no.
really? Oops. Oof. Never mind then.
Well, I'm upgrading fairly soon, so it's all right.
Oh really? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, honestly, dude, the image is honestly pretty awesome. Like it's cool to hear you
Thank you.
really like tell the story and break down a little bit more about taking the shot and the process. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing the rest of the series there.
Thank you.
However many more you got.
Oh, I've
Yeah,
got hundreds, or 100
yeah, that's
basically.
right.
Yeah.
At
Uh-huh.
least 800.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And I'm sorry if I rambled a bit. I was just like, it was such an experience for me. It's like one of those paramount photography experiences. So.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome, man. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Excited to share it and like just yeah, you can tell like the moment was really exhilarating, just the way you kind
Mm-hmm.
of like carried the story with you. Like it wasn't
Oh
just
yeah.
like, oh, is it another elk, really? Yawn. Like you were
Mm-hmm.
like, that's the first time you've seen them, right? Ever?
Yep. And
Yeah.
I'd been listening to like this one podcast I really like, and they always shoot elk, and I'd been learning about elk. I was like, I need to see an elk, and they finally showed up. So I was just freaking out. Yeah.
Oh man.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's cool that you really kind of like varied your zoom your factor there. Like you said, you
Mm-hmm.
incorporate some of the landscape around it, which I always think is awesome to do with wildlife. And then you even typed did like the tightly cropped portraits, like the one I'm looking at now. So it's
Mm-hmm.
cool that you got the variation there. And I feel like that diversity really helps out, like with a portfolio or even like an Instagram feed, I guess.
Yeah, like once I do a website, I could even do like an elk only page and have the tights and the wides and all that
Oh,
stuff. So.
yeah, definitely, man,
Uh-huh.
definitely. I'd say that's worthwhile to do, especially with 800 at least shots of that.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
So after that, I took some more landscapes in the Smokies before I left. The sun kind of came in, and I was able to get some nice light on the mountains there. Um, those mountains, they're very like woodsy, so they can be really cool. And I got the early fall color on that there. So that was awesome. It was nice. I hadn't shot landscapes in a while. It was nice to get back into that. Uh, One of my favorites was taking on my 100 to 500 again. Way out at 500. So I got these two rows of trees. So like the layers of the mountains. And this one layer had light on it, the other didn't. So it like provided this nice contrast. It was probably my favorite landscape shot from the trip. It was just kind of really unique to me, nice and abstract. So really enjoyed doing that. And yeah, so the next day I got to Asheville. Uh, so that's where the college was, and I found a bird sanctuary. It was actually 4 minutes away from my hotel. Um, on this
Oh wow.
beautiful, yeah, it was on this beautiful lake. It's called Beaver Lake, and man, the birds there were great. As soon as I got there, I saw I did this in the early morning. As soon as I got there, I saw a pied-billed grebe. Never seen that before. That was great to shoot. Got some nice, and it was fog, of course. I love fog. We all know this at this point. It was in fog. I was able to get. He was swimming in the water, so I was able to get some cool shots of him. And then I ran into this really interesting bird. I've shot this before, but never like this. It was a eastern phoebe. I don't know what it was with this bird, but it would not leave me alone. It was like kind of obsessed with me. Like it it even landed on my backpack at one point, like on my camera bag. I wasn't wearing it, but it was like on the ground right in front of me. And it just got so close. So I was able to get some like frame filling portraits at like 200 millimeters of this bird.
Wow.
It was crazy. I like I've never had a bird get this close to me. Like I wasn't even trying. I kind of wanted it to leave. Like it was too close. Honestly, like I was a little worried it would run into me. But that was cool. And I actually ended up going back 2 days later, right before I left, and it was there again and kept getting close. Um, so that was cool. Just kind of a unique thing. And it definitely makes me want to go to college there if there's birds like that that'll just come right up to you. Uh, yeah. And then that night, I don't know if you know the Blue Ridge Parkway, but it's that famous road that kind of goes through the Appalachian Mountains in Asheville. Uh, I was able to get some sunset layer shots, with the dark layers of the mountains and then the colors above. I really enjoyed taking those. Some nice telephoto landscape shots there. Uh, and then I traveled to Tennessee to see another college. And fun fact, the college I saw, it's called Swanee, which it's in Tennessee. It's about an hour from Nashville. It actually has the largest campus in the United States, and it's on a mountain. So there's literally I think it's something crazy like 1,000 acres of trails or something. So I really just did a lot of hiking there. Shot some waterfalls, uh, shot some bluebirds, and some white-tailed deer. And yeah, that was pretty much the trip there. It was just kind of a big hodgepodge of landscapes and wildlife and birding, and it was great, really. And I saw two great colleges that I liked, was able to add those to my list, and great photo locations. So yeah, it was a good trip.
Awesome. Even better than like Yosemite and all that stuff when you went out west.
I wouldn't say that just because this trip was a little bit shorter, a lot shorter actually. But it's definitely up there. It's probably up. I'd probably even put it above my South Carolina trip.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I was gonna say it's like dual purpose, which is fun. Kind of amusing because you're there for like the college tours, but then you're like,
Uh huh.
cool, my vacation time almost. Like I get to go
Yep.
do fun stuff.
Uh huh.
It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
It's
I try to fit it in whenever I can. So.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that's really cool though. That you
Uh
really
huh.
like took the time and kind of slipped in all these different cool experiences overall. Like that's just really neat to travel across state lines and just see things you wanted to see before and all that stuff. And even birds, like I mean we get piebald grebes and phoebes quite often depending on the time of year, but like it's neat that you saw them down there too, like, during migration or whatever.
Yeah, it was really cool. So did you say those are migratory birds or?
I mean, yeah, most birds are migratory, I'd say. But like I know both those species we get around here, like in the Midwest, the more like Midwest part of the country that is. But it's cool that you're seeing them like in a different spot at least. And that Phoebe story is like hilarious. Like I wonder maybe something about the area, like maybe there's a nest nearby. I don't know. It's not even nesting season. So what am I talking about? I don't know. I don't know. That's weird. It's
It-
amusing, but I'm just like, I wonder why.
yeah, it was so weird. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I'll definitely
the
I'll when I go back, I'm sure I'll go back because I do have family there as well. Even if I don't go to college there, I'll definitely have to see if there's that Phoebe's still there. Pay it a visit.
could be the same one, maybe. Who even knows?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, I just don't know, but yeah, that's
Because
cool.
I was reading and they don't seem like they're like particularly friendly birds. Like they're just like any other bird. Like I don't know. It's kind of weird.
I think they're maybe in the songbird world a little more feisty, but like I've had one that I've had maybe a time or two where I got some really close looks at them, so maybe they are a little more like fearless, we'll say, than like some other birds. So maybe that's it. But
Mm,
I've never had one like land on my camera bag or something like that. So that's something different. It's unique, which is cool.
yeah.
And
So
it's cool that you really balance the landscapes and the wildlife, like you said, and all that stuff. Like I focus exclusively on like landscapes pretty much, but like it's cool that
mhm.
you got this kind of like overview of your trip and just various subject matter, which is really cool.
Yeah, it was great. I definitely filled that landscape hole. I had been missing it really. Like I just hadn't been able to shoot it in a long time, so it was great to work on that again. And even like photography in general, like I was kind of down in the dumps. Like I wasn't getting the photos I wanted, and I wasn't like having the success I wanted. Like obviously I still enjoy being out there, but I just hadn't gotten a, by my standards, like good photo in such a long time. It was just nice to have a weekend and full of good photos. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's really neat. You probably didn't do any camping, I'd imagine, or did you do any like that kind of stuff?
No. I went with my family and they hate camping, so unfortunately I was stuck in the hotel. But most of my waking hours were spent outdoors when I wasn't at colleges. So
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say you're the black sheep of the family.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, hotels are fine, of course, too. So nothing wrong with that.
yeah. So anything else to add, or think we're
I mean, for my trip or yours, I mean, for mine, I'm pretty much I'm pretty good. I mean, I would just say check out here in the upcoming weeks because it probably will be weeks. I'm gonna have some Instagram posts, some blog posts eventually, and some videos on my YouTube channel. So lots of new stuff. So I'm really excited to share it with everyone. My experiences, but I'm looking forward to yours as well. Like that elk photo got me excited, and that Phoebe photo, I definitely want to see that because that sounds really fun. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. I'll definitely be posting them soon. I'm looking forward to seeing yours as well. Yeah. So
Thanks,
make
man.
sh- make sure you check out both of our Instagram feeds to to see those photos.
Yeah, definitely. And if you want to support the podcast, check us out on Patreon. We do have one, and we, greatly appreciate your support. We have different tiers and benefits. Just neat little stuff like we do, like handwritten, thank you cards, or a full-on Discord community where you can interact with us and have some like portfolio critiques or just some really kind of clear communication one-on-one with other listeners and both of us, of course. So we really appreciate it. Check that out, which we'll have in the episode description.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure to check that out and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yep, you too, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching the All Outdoors Photography Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the video version on YouTube as well. You can subscribe down below, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.